Hello, 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 Taranaki. Welcome to Taranaki Foodies, the food show on the Most FM, where we talk about food, garden, hospitality in our beautiful Taranaki, and of course music. We are recording our show live on Facebook group page for Taranaki Foodies. Join in if you are a visual type of a person. My name is Alina Williams, and our guest today is Michelle Yandle, National Ambassador for Binn Inn, health coach, author, and TED speaker. She's originally from Canada, and she made Taranaki her home. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. It's so nice to have you. You have a lovely smile. It's a pity that our radio listeners can't see you, but our Facebook viewers possibly can. So especially for Michelle, there's a piece of a Canadian music. She helped to choose the music pieces herself, and the first one is Ryan Cook, award-winning singer-songwriter from Nova Scotia, exactly where Michelle came from. Just listen to the first verse of the music. Sometimes I wanna give up, but you gotta keep going. Sometimes I hate myself for all the money I'm blowing. Sometimes I wanna just flush it all down the drain. Tonight I'm thinking I'm gonna need a vacation from my brain. So Brian Cook, margaritas and muscle relaxers. Can you hear it?
A little bit.
How do I make it sound it here?
He's a very clever man who loves to tell stories in his music. Yeah.
Microphones are off while the music is
Yeah.
playing.
That's cool. I get it mixed up with there's another radio station on near downtown.
There are Music B.
What's the other big one?
Is it More FM?
No, this is more.
Oh, this is the most.
Oh, Most FM. Yeah, maybe it's more FM. That's probably why I got mixed up. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great to hear about your Access Radio. My
Yeah.
friend in the last 2 weeks was there too.
Oh, cool.
For what reason were you on?
She just wanted to, she does a like storytelling series, and she's
Yeah.
really just started it herself. So
Oh, yeah.
she's been interviewing people that she enjoys and
Yeah.
likes.
Who's the host?
Nick, I can't remember her last name. Nick, yeah. So that was on Wednesday. So I said it's good practice now. But a little less technical there. It was all like in an office.
Yeah.
They run a show called Calling Home, and they get in touch with New Zealanders outside New Zealand who are doing interesting things,
Oh,
and it's a half-hour show.
oh,
They
that's
interview them.
cool. This must be one of his new, not the newest, but the one before, I think, this album. Yeah.
This was written in 1917, and it was recorded online on this website,
Yeah.
which I purchased it from in 2018. So,
Cool. Okay.
so it's actually quite cool. It has its own page on this website, and Google Music is accessible. And I thought that actually purchasing it for a small amount of money is quite a good way to support the musician. So,
Yeah, no, it's cool.
so we have a minute of our music, and then we're back on air.
Are we live now too?
We are live on Facebook.
Yes, we are. And we've got 2 people.
Hi.
Deanna Faye. Hi, Deanna.
Hello everyone, it's lovely to have you here in the studio with us.
And Maria as well is watching.
Can they all see both me and Michelle?
Only just. It's easier to focus on one or the other.
Okay.
That's alright, I'll keep it on you both though.
Mics are on. And we're back to Taranaki Foodies at the Most FM. We just listened to Ryan Cook, margaritas and muscle relaxers. Canadian singer from Nova Scotia, exactly from Michelle Yandle, our guest, came today. Michelle, I'm your big fan, and I saw you growing in the food industry since no one knew what nutritionist is and what nutritionists do, except probably helping people with terminal illnesses or after serious surgeries or something like that. So how did the industry change since then?
Oh, I think it's changed a lot, Melina. When I first started, I was working just as a health coach, and at the time in New Plymouth, in particular, there wasn't very many of us. There were not other people. I mean, there were a few nutritionists, and there was a few naturopaths, but it wasn't really what we would consider an industry here in Taranaki. And then, yeah, now and finding a place to eat that had healthy offerings or things that were fresh and maybe vegetarian or whatever was really difficult when I first got here 9 years ago. And now, I mean, it's every corner. You can find something nutritious and delicious. So it's changed heaps. And there's lots of us. The more the merrier. There's lots of people that want some help, and so it's great, and it's a good place to be if you're into the health and wellness industry.
Oh, awesome. Does it reflect your personal journey, the fact how the industry changed and how you went from the very beginning to where you're now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how the two sort of blend together, but I do know my own journey has significantly changed. As far as when I first started, I was a vegetarian, I was vegan, and now to eating a different style of eating and including meat in my diet and getting away from quick fixes and moving towards more sustainable change and getting rid of the diet mentality and helping people learn to eat again. So I've been on a journey, we're all on a journey, and it's definitely in the last 5 years since starting, there has been a lot of change, and I think it's going finally in the right direction.
Wow, this is pretty amazing. A lot of people just discovering vegan and vegetarian lifestyle because no one calls it diet anymore. It's like holistic lifestyle and having plant-based diet without consuming any goods or food coming out of animals. So you went the opposite way.
Yeah, I did.
How did that happen?
Oh, well, it's it's a bit of a personal journey for me, and I always say to people, do what makes you feel good. And so I think a vegetarian diet and a vegan diet does indeed make some people feel great, and I say go for it. Myself, my own personal body, it didn't work for me. I was vegetarian for 27 years, and I was a vegan for a good part of that. And my health began to decline, and being a health coach and studying nutrition at the time, it's not that I was eating crap all the time. I was just basically starting to get tireder and tireder and tireder. And so I spoke to my GP and I spoke to some colleagues and eventually made the decision to slowly reintroduce some meat into my diet. And that was about 4 years ago, and I've never felt better. I felt like a new person, and I've written books, and I've done everything I've done has been since introducing meat into my diet. So for me, it's about quality versus quantity, and I did have to spend a long time making peace with this decision. It wasn't something that came lightly.
Wow, that's really interesting. I've read some of your books, and I purchased your journal, which is supposed to be reflecting healthy lifestyle. So the first book is called The Diet for 7 Generations, and there you presume or try to prove that our genetical build actually comes with all our diet preferences, our food preferences, maybe something that we can't eat or we prefer to eat, which is good for us. Is it still something that you stand for?
The first book was more around the idea that we need to go back to a simpler way of eating. So it's more about looking at how our ancestors ate and not eating specifically what they ate, because a lot of those foods don't exist now, but actually just going back to a simpler way of looking at things, as if, say, for example, supermarkets ceased to exist. What would we eat? We would eat a majority of a natural diet. But I always joke too and say, if my ancestors had been presented with chocolate cake or biscuits, they weren't going to turn those down either. So it may not have been available, but There was maple syrup that was dripping from the maple trees. So yeah, it was just about getting back to a simpler way of eating and a more natural way of eating. And yeah, I still hold true to a lot of those perspectives. And the only difference is I think that I've become a lot more relaxed in that approach.
I made a show about dependency with the genetic build and our basically ancestry and our food preferences. Like everyone knows that there is a high majority of Asians are intolerant to milk or milk product dairy. And for example, there is a lot of people in South America who are allergic to oranges, and no one heard of allergy to oranges in New Zealand. So obviously it has some genetic connections with it. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, definitely. And I know that my friend and colleague Cliff Harvey, he talks about that in his book, The Carb Appropriate Diet. And he talks about depending on how far you or your ancestors were from the equator determined the tolerance you had for carbohydrates. And so for example, the Inuit in northern Canada, they ate very little carbohydrates, and it was mainly meat and fat. And the closer you got to the equator, the more carbohydrates were a standard part of people's diets. And so our genetics can influence, like you say, our preferences in many ways. It's still, I think, an area that people are researching and looking into more, but I think it's really interesting.
It is. I must admit, I've watched your TED Talk several times, so at least 3. So it's pretty amazing how you kind of open up, and it's really raw, very authentic talk, and it's all about your journey through the life. How did it change you, the fact that you were a TED speaker, as a speaker in general, as a public figure, and as a human?
It's a hard one because some of the people who have read my blog know, and have read the post in particular about the TED Talk, that time was actually a really difficult time in my life when I lost my father, he passed away 3 days after the TED Talk. And so I really haven't felt like I've been able to fully maximize the potential from that talk. But I'm feeling now that, this is a few months later now, that I am starting to feel that strength come back again and feel a little bit of my old self coming back. And so now I feel that from now into the future there's many opportunities, and I do have some meetings coming up in Auckland with people that are potentially going to help me boost my speaking career. I am and I mean, as a person, it was such a challenge, but most of those huge challenges in our life do make us better people in lots of ways as well. And so even though it was incredibly challenging, more so doing the talk, I mean, that was terrifying. But it was that I did it. I'm 41 years old and I can still memorize a 12-minute talk and do something like that. So it did make me feel good, and it was something that I'm still only now starting to reflect on a bit more and what that was.
Well, a lot of people probably can memorize a 12-minute talk, but not everyone is prepared to do public speaking. For a lot of people it's intimidating. I don't know why. So is it intimidating for you? Are you just as a fish in the water?
No. Everybody, they comment on how how easy and how well I did at the TED Talk, but little did they know, about an hour before I had my head between my knees, I was ready to throw up. I was so nervous. So I wouldn't say it comes natural, and to be honest, public speaking was my biggest fear for most of my life, but I was determined that I wanted to be a school teacher. And so I thought, well, I have to, immerse myself into speaking if I'm going to do that. And so I became a tour guide in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, and had to present every day for an entire summer. And from then on, I've been okay with it for the majority of the time. And I did become a teacher, and so I am used to public speaking, but I think I wouldn't be human if I didn't get a few butterflies before you go and do something new.
What's the best advice can you give to people who would like to endeavor in public speaking?
I love the advice that, again, Cliff Harvey gave to me, and it was to turn the nervousness into excitement. So they feel similar, the nervousness and excitement feel similar in our stomach. So just telling ourselves, this is excitement, rather than oh my gosh, that made a huge difference, you know, getting ready for it, and honestly just to do it. I mean, start small and maybe just do it for some friends first and then get more comfortable, but if you don't do it, it's never going to happen.
Absolutely, and I think it's a perfect time for another piece of Canadian music. Artist has been chosen by Michelle today, and she's very interesting in her music taste, I must admit. So the next song is called Smoke from the album Hello Hum by Winter Sleep. They're also from Nova Scotia, and Winter Sleep uses interesting beats and other refined representatives of Canadian indie rock. Mics are off. So
The sun's coming in on my back. Nothing.
Yes, sorry, we
That's
don't
okay.
have a conditioner in here.
That's all right.
So
There is one.
oh, we do.
Yeah.
Where is
I
it?
don't think it'll make too much of a difference, to be honest. It's just the sun's coming right here, but I'll be all right. I'll
I can
survive.
do the air conditioning, so it will circulate the outdoor air for the.
That's nice. It's going really well. We went through 16 minutes of the program, and probably have another 10.
All right. Okay.
10 or 15, depends on how we're going and how we're interested. Sampling will take a while because it's quite interesting thing. So, and the next thing after that, I'll ask you about blogging. This is for you, listeners and viewers on Facebook, because it's amazing how many people ask me how to start blogging. And one of the ladies, she is a hairdresser. She wanted to start her own blog, and I mean. The only thing I want to stress that we are not competitors, we all kind of collaborators. You can feature in your blog if you want to. And Michelle can. Maybe, I'm not sure about the hairdressers, you have to ask her personally. But it's nice to do things together, and yeah. In a minute I'm going to ask Michelle some questions about blogging and internet presence, online presence, so yeah, stay with us, listen to some music. Music. We can relax for 4 minutes. What is your closest project? I know that you have a project and you have classes in Binn Inn, don't you?
Yeah, they're coming up. They're all filled up now. What's coming up after that? I'm off to Auckland to do a talk for Newsdesk, but that's not something that's public yet, so I won't talk about that. Yeah, just mainly getting the Well-Fed going, and we've just been given a major partner that's come on board, so they're going to be a big part of the promotion and finances, and giving me huge help money-wise, and that's Newsdesk, so I'm just so grateful for them.
Is it News ZB? Oh, is it News ZB? Did you say News ZB?
Newsdesk.
Newsdesk.
The supplements.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So instead of just Michelle Yandle as sole entrepreneur, you became a corporation, Michelle Yandle.
That's right. So it'll be Michelle Yandle and Newsdesk New Zealand brought to me by. So that's fun. It makes me feel a little less alone with everything. And I've been working with Newsdesk for years, and they're a really lovely company and lovely people. So I'm really excited to have them on board.
So it's yogurts, right? Just yogurts. Juice.
No, they do protein powders and multivitamin supplements and bars, and they do. That's their main. Oh, and fruit and veggie shakes and stuff. Yeah, it's like having my friends with me.
Do you take vitamins in everyday life? Yeah.
I do. I take a good green stuff from Newsdesk every morning, and I used to take a fish oil, and I've run out, and I want to take it again. So that's usually a standard one that I take. It's multi and a fish oil. Just just to cover bases. It's not in everybody's budget to do so, and that's okay. But
well, some people prefer not to take any tablets or powders, so it's personal choice basically.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That feels much better. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Whew. I keep forgetting that we're live. Good thing I don't say anything too embarrassing.
Yeah.
Still have 1 minute 42 seconds.
The long song.
Yes. But it's a beautiful song.
Yeah,
It's,
they're amazing. They've won a lot of awards, and they haven't quite been to New Zealand yet. I keep telling them to come over, and same with Ryan.
would you tell a few words about them after the break maybe? I'll ask you.
Yeah. I've known Timmy since one of the band members since I was 4 years old. We used to play.
Yeah, it's amazing how our childhood friends grow and they turn into something important, big or famous, and we still relate to them as childhood friends, like little Nikki or something.
Yeah, I mean, Yarmouth has brought out so many amazing musicians. It's incredible. Me, not so much, but I'm not so musical. But
yeah, maybe it's the whole area. Like Aukra is a very arty place. Maybe Dartmouth is a very musical place.
It was very musical.
30 seconds.
We got watchers?
Yeah, there's about 5 people, I think.
Oh, hi, 5 people.
Hello, we're back at the studio of the Most FM. Taranaki Foodies here. Alina Williams and Michelle Yandle in the studio, and the videographer of the day today is Nathan Griffith. So, Michelle, we just listened 2 pieces of music. One was Ryan Cook and another was Winter Sleep, and they all came from your province. Are they?
Yeah, they did. And they were friends of mine growing up, both through university and through childhood. And I was just saying in the break how Yarmouth, this little town, middle of nowhere, Canada, produced these excellent musicians, as well as my friend Brian Borchard. He's got his band's doing really well also, and he's toured New Zealand and Australia, and just this tiny little town, and it's just produced so much amazing music. So I feel very grateful to have grown up having bonfires and playing music around the bonfire in high school with all these talented musicians. And so I thought it'd be really cool to share them here in New Zealand, because they're not normally heard here, and I think it was really cool to have them. I feel like my friends are here with me.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because music is really good. With the Winter Sleep, I could not actually find their style because all their songs are so different, but always have an interesting beat or probably some sort of a musical decoration that no one else uses. Very inventive, very indie. So yeah, I am going to readdress you some questions that I'm asked quite often online. So one of the online questions about blogging. I know that you have a website, you have your own blog, and you have some other online presences. Can you describe your space in online?
Yeah, so I'm actually used to have an office in person, and I'm now moving more so into that online world. And so my website is that basically it's a place for people to get some information and to feel empowered. There's the blog, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, and all that social media. And I also do videos on YouTube as well, and I keep everything in one place there. So the whole goal is that everybody can obtain some form of help, whether they have $0 or they have many dollars. And so for those that have less money to spend on consulting, they can still go on my website, they can still go on YouTube and get some help if it's not downloading my ebook or watching the videos. And a lot of my consulting is happening online too, with courses and everything. So online presence is really the majority of my presence at the moment, and I'm really enjoying that.
Mm-hmm. So how did you start blogging? What was the something that you ignite your interest in blogging?
I think it's been more of always had a love of writing. I am a much more creative writer than speaker. I love writing, and I always have since I was a child, and I will fumble over my words sometimes if I'm not practiced or something is live or unplanned. But when it comes to writing, I feel very much at ease, and so it was an outlet for me to get my message out there in a comfortable way before I started doing live videos, before I started doing the speaking. And so it started very much at the beginning of my nutrition practice, and just, they say, a way of getting that message out there into the public.
Awesome. This is what I feel sometimes. I started blogging just out of the desire to connect with some people and the love of taking photos and sharing them, and then it naturally grew into something else. And now we are coming to the most interesting part of our program, which is food tasting. That's why we call Taranaki Foodies. So Michelle brought some food today, and we will ask Nathan to regulate the camera in such a way so you can see it online. And we would ask Nathan to try some food. So Michelle today brought some raw treats, and they are called raspberry bliss balls. In a minute, Nathan is going to munch on them and give us his review on that. Okay, what's the content of them? What ingredients are used in these bliss balls?
They are the standard bliss ball ingredients in many ways, although instead of dates to hold them together, I'm using Aluan coconut oil, which is a local coconut oil distributor. And so they gifted me some beautiful coconut oil. That's what that's got in it, as well as some freeze-dried raspberries, some cacao powder, and some coconut, and some, I think that's basic. Oh, and maple syrup, Canadian. You know, I have to put a little bit of maple syrup in there. So
the same as music, you have to add that.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well,
so Nathan, yeah.
To taste it first, it's a very neutral flavour, and I think that's the coconut. But after a moment, it's got a very earthy, deep, rich flavour to it, and it's very interesting texture. There's a variety of textures, and then the aftertaste actually is quite sweet.
Wow.
Which I believe is the fruit that you were saying that's in there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is actually very appetizing. Sounds very like we all want to try Michelle's bliss ball. So is it a treat, or is it a snack, or is it something that you eat for lunch or afternoon?
Well, I mean, I always say to people, we're grown-ups, we can do whatever we want, but ideally I would have it as a snack. So it's not a super sweet bliss ball, it's more of a snacky thing for me. And I grew up, my friends used to tease me and they say, oh, if you're hungry, go find Michelle, she has snacks in her bag. So I'm like the snack queen, and so a lot of my recipes do tend to be snack based, just like these ones are.
Wow, wonderful. And this is so easy to do. You can take it in a container or can just present it on the table. They'll look good with fruits or vegetables and together. So yeah, whoever invented bliss balls was a genius.
That's right. It wasn't me.
So what is your favorite ingredient at the moment? Because I go through the stages, spices and ingredients and cuisine. So what's the theme for you at the moment?
That's a really good question. There's lots. I mean, I've been using a lot of fresh herbs lately, and there's a recipe I came across that uses fresh coriander and fresh mint together, and that mixed with avocado was just beautiful. And so I've been making that quite a bit. So I'd have to say that combination of the mint and the coriander is just beautiful for pesto or a sauce, and I mean any fresh herbs really, but those two have really stuck out lately, and I've been using them quite a bit.
I brought you some sorrel from my garden. I hope you'll experiment.
I will, thank you.
And give us a little review on sorrel and maybe your use of them, because in Eastern Europe mainly it's used in soups and only for a short moment. At the very end of cooking they just dip it in a water that already stopped boiling, so to preserve vitamin C from dissolving. But I've heard that people mix it with spinach and with cheese and basically use it as spinach. It's more acidic than spinach and probably less juicy, but it's from the same family, so it could be used in a similar way, and it changes the color as quickly as spinach. Can't do too much of heating.
Right.
So what are your plans for the future? Because I've heard that some big events are coming.
Yeah, so there's lots of exciting things happening, and it's really, again, shifting into that online world and offering more courses and training that people can do, and also to get support along the way. But the biggest thing, the most exciting thing coming up is an event here in October that's I'm just starting to trickle details out about, and that's going to be called Well Fed. And that's going to be put out in partnership with NewsEst New Zealand, and it's going to be a full-day conference-style event with world-class speakers and food, and just basically an opportunity to come and learn from the best. So Auckland, they get all of the great events, and I wanted something for us here in Taranaki, something that is hopefully good enough that people from Auckland will want to come and visit Taranaki. And so the goal is to bring people from New Zealand here to New Plymouth for this event. And the speaker list is still top secret, but I will reveal all soon if you want to follow the page Well Fed. And also my own page will have some information on that too. But that's going to be coming up in October, Labor Day weekend. So book your Labor Day weekend early, and it's going to be awesome. Okay?
Oh wow! You made me curious. So I know that you can't reveal the speakers' names at the moment, but can you tell us, are they national, local, or international?
We've got a bit of both. We've got some speakers from Auckland, from Australia, and from Christchurch. And this year we have a local MC who's going to be emceeing the event. And we do have somebody else who is going to co-MC who is potentially still a bit up in the air, but we do have our local MC and we're really stoked that he's coming. And so yeah, a bit of everywhere.
I've heard that you have been recognized at your home as well, so you've had some engagements with children and with adults with your projects there. Can you please share some? Yeah,
so this is a program that comes through the International Indigenous Speakers Bureau, which I'm a part of, and it's a way to get speakers, professional speakers, into the classrooms. So basically it's all happening via Zoom and interactive with the teachers, and so as a speaker I would come into a classroom via Zoom in Canada and teach about empowered eating and be interacting with the students through Zoom technology. And so I've done a few practice runs with some classes over there, and it's been awesome. It's combining my favorite things, teaching and empowered eating, and I can let the teachers do all the classroom management, so it's even better.
So is it targeting children or adults?
Young people.
Young
yeah,
people.
Yep. So probably intermediate and older. At this stage, though, they do plan to release it to younger students as well.
And what's the connection with the Indigenous program? Is it only for Indigenous people or just open for everyone?
No, the connection is that the speakers are all Indigenous. And so they're Indigenous people from all over the world, and there's also some from here in New Zealand. There's myself with a connection to the Mi'kmaq culture in Nova Scotia, and they're coming from all over. And it's just a way of helping Indigenous speakers to get more exposure out there into the world.
Oh, awesome. It was lovely to have you in the studio. And thank you very much for sharing. And I think that you are inspiration for so many people, whether online, offline, in real life, in Canada, in New Zealand, Taranaki, everywhere. So thank you for being with us. So the last piece of music we are going to listen to today is the cover by Rabbit Flowers, and the original song called Fireworks by another Canadian band, the Tragically Hip. Switch it off.